Dear Minister of State, dear Harriet, dear friends of Martin Roth, ladies and gentlemen. Less than a full year has passed since Martin Roth's death, and the question that inspired this conference already seems more urgent than ever. Every day brings fresh news that prompts us to replace the question of what can culture do with the seemingly more important question of what must culture do. That is how compelled we, museum personnel, teachers, artists, and authors, feel to do something and to take a stand, clearly and unmistakably. 50 years after May '68, our place, once again, seems to be on the street or at the barricades, despite all our current skepticism towards such traditional forms of protest. But the question, what can culture do, is the right one. It is about recognizing what culture is capable of achieving in the current circumstances and in the foreseeable future. Yet we are aware just how much the foreseeable has shrunk. We are under surprising and overwhelming political conditions that most of us have never seen before. Only in great historic moments of crisis may a similar tension have been felt. But what appears to us today as state of emergency could prove to be tomorrow's norm. That is why Martin Roth was such a pioneering museum director, because he had a fine sense of the dangers that today threaten education in its broadest sense, not just arts education. And by threatening education, they threaten the basis of democracy. We go through a crisis of representation that has no precedent. All players in the public sphere, political or cultural, are concerned with it. None of the traditional institutions in this sphere, from diplomacy to the media and to the institutions of science and education, is left untouched. Politicians cease to talk to their colleagues in parties and the parliament and address their followers on media we mistook for adolescent toys. News is no longer filtered and quality controlled by critical media and publishing houses. The eroding notion of truth sets science and the humanities alike under universal suspicion. Defenders of education fight a hopeless struggle against digital supremacy. Institutions and individuals acting in the realm of culture are deeply affected by this situation. Instead of ignoring it, we have to reflect it. We were used to fight for attention and public funding. We continue to do so. But something is new on our agenda. We have to get clear about our mission. Enlightenment, cultural knowledge, a sense of critique, of course. Cultural memory and sensibility, no question. Cultural identity, national values, competition of narratives. It's here where things get twisted and the winds of change are felt. But here exactly lies the focus of our questions. What can culture do? What are its political implications and its social efficiency? To what degree is culture capable to confer the messages of liberal democracy and an ethics of understanding? Culture is not a canonical set of works and values. It is born and reborn in art. Art follows its own rules, which will never be identical with those of the market economy or with strategies of cultural hegemony. Art has a force of subversion that has taken on with yesterday's forces of surprise and overpowering. It will take on also with those of today and tomorrow. This was also Martin's conviction, who sensed these dangers coming when they were still below the horizon. He did not give ground to them. He attributed new tasks to the museum, and, more important, he believed in the museum's capability to fulfill them. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to welcome you to this conference. Its reason is sad, but Martin, I'm sure, would have been delighted to see us meeting and discussing questions he has been asking with all his passion. He would have looked forward to your talks and comments. Let me thank you for being here and for having overcome long distances and overcharged agendas. My special thanks goes to Harriet and our friends on the advisory board, the staff of the German Foreign Ministry, and my future colleagues of the Institute for Foreign Relations. Welcome to all our Berlin guests and, last not least, to my former colleagues of the press. Thank you.